when have you thought, you know what, Russia? That's where I want to go.
Oh boy. Okay. So it starts in 2019. At that point, I'd been hoping to go to Russia to, practice the language because, you learn a language in school, that's one thing. You actually being able to use that language in everyday life situations is a whole other thing. And so I did consistently well in my Russian courses. I was performing very, very well. I felt like I understood the language to the extent that I needed to for my classes, but I knew I needed more if I wanted to be fluent. And ultimately, my goal was to become fluent. So I knew I had to get to Russia. And year after year, financially, I could not make it work. I do not come from a very rich family. I'd say we're
Like
lower
all of us.
middle class. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And at the time, I really wanted to go to Russia, but I just couldn't financially make it work until 2019, where there was a concourse, I guess I can say that word in English, to apply for a bilateral diplomacy simulation between, Russia and the US. So basically, we would pretend to be the US government, the Russian colleagues would pretend to be the Russian government, and we would meet, talk about things, deliberate some issues, and then write a communique about the whole meeting. I applied and I got in, and everything just magically worked out to where I was able to afford the plane tickets. I was able to afford the visa. I've said this before to some people, but I genuinely believe I'm very lucky. I have a streak of luck that has not yet run out. And so that was just one instance of that, stroke of luck where everything just fell into place. And in October of 2019, I was off to Russia with one of my friends who also was accepted to this forum. It was called the Russian American Leadership Summit. And they elected me as president of the United States, so I can say yes, I was president. I'm just kidding, of course. I got to, lead our group, and I had a phenomenal time in Moscow, Suzdal, and Vladimir. And, once it was all said and done, I just had this burning desire to return. Like, I knew it's just sometimes things, you just have to follow your gut. And at that point, that was just the one moment, the one thing that just occupied my mind for months was go back to Moscow, go back to Moscow, go back to Moscow. And I wasn't going to let anything stop me. So I did everything I could. I got as many scholarships as I could. I worked extra hours. I saved up all my money to go spend 6 months in Russia to practice my language skills more and just live there. And it worked out. I got to go to a language program at the Moscow State Institute of International Relations. That is an important name. Remember it because it's going to come up quite a bit. It's also called MGIMO. So they use the Russian acronym. So MGIMO. I got to go there, and that was in 2020. Well, what else happened in 2020?
Oh, the crazy timing.
Yeah, I got stuck in Russia, essentially, is what happened. I couldn't return. All the planes were stopped. No airlines were carrying between the two countries anymore. And initially I was going to go back to the US. It was in March, and I was on the phone with my dad. We were looking to buy tickets back home because they were telling me that we couldn't extend my visa anymore because everything was closed due to COVID. And at the very last second, right before my dad's about to buy that, I'm literally, he's 10 seconds away from buying the ticket to go home. I get a text from my advisor at MGIMO. And she's like, Rachel, everything's fine. We can extend your visa. Don't worry about it. No stress. So right as my dad's about to click purchase, I'm like, Dad, stop. I can stay. I think I might have even had tears in my eyes because I had worked so hard for that. And, all that, those hours, all that money, because it was not a cheap trip. I was crushed at the idea of having to return early and, feel like a failure. So her sending that right there, was honestly a miracle. Like it just worked out. So I stayed, and then I couldn't go back home because everything shut down, everything.